Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
So today we're taking a closer look at Vietnamese Gen Z artist Wren Evans.
Yeah, specifically through this really interesting interview he did on Vietcetera's Gen Z Trion show.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to pull out the key bits, his thoughts on career, creativity, personal growth, relationships, the whole package.
Right. We've gone through the transcript, Hop Noi Kong Vi Noi Ko Quan Euro. That's the one. We want to give you, the learner, the core insights.
Yeah, without getting totally bogged down in every single detail, we're aiming for those aha moments, the surprising stuff, and maybe some useful takeaways about, the mindset of a young creative who's making waves.
Okay, so let's dive in. The interview actually kicks off with a tarot reading.
Yeah, and the first card pulled for Wren is the Ten of Pentacles. Straight away, you get this vibe of abundance, wanting to provide for family.
Definitely. It feels like a potential key, doesn't it, to understanding some of his earlier choices, maybe even beyond just picking music.
How so? Like, how might that drive have shaped how he approached music, not just that he chose it?
Well, you could wonder, did it make him think about commercial appeal early on? Or maybe create a kind of urgency?
Or even push him to learn things like production himself, to have more control.
Exactly. Control over the output, maybe the potential earnings down the line. It adds a layer to that big decision.
Because it was a big leap, wasn't it?
No.
Choosing music over something safer, like medicine or pharmacy. You mentioned that expectation of financial security.
Sure. And that trade-off with what his family probably hoped for.
It wasn't just about maybe disappointing them, though. There was actual financial risk involved, right? For him, possibly for them, too.
Oh, absolutely. That makes the risk feel even heavier.
And then you add in that period in grade 12. He basically locks himself away to write music.
Yeah, total isolation.
Friends are confused, school's not the priority, parents aren't on board at first. He said he felt really alone.
What does that kind of solitude do to you creatively? And think about the conviction needed to push past all that disapproval.
It's intense, but it sounds like it was fertile ground, too, maybe. That space away from distractions.
Could be. But it takes incredible self-belief to stick with it when everyone around you is questioning it. It points to something really deep-seated in him.
He seemed to understand why he needed it, though. It wasn't just like random rebellion.
No, it sounds like a deliberate choice. To immerse himself, focus on the music, even knowing the potential downsides.
And those downsides were real. Losing touch with people, upsetting his parents.
Didn't they even take away his music gear at one point?
Yeah. So these were like tangible consequences, not just worries.
Which makes the turnaround with his parents even more striking. You said it was a complete 180.
Totally. Now they're fully supportive. It really shows how seeing that commitment and, let's be honest, the success can change minds.
That tangible success is often key for parents, isn't it? Their main concern is often security.
Right. So seeing music become a viable path, not just a risky hobby, probably gave them the reassurance they needed.
It shifts from deviation to legitimate career in their eyes.
What's interesting, though, is Wren said his initial motivation wasn't fame at all.
Just the music itself.
Yeah, purely the act of creating. That feels authentic.
It really does. And that kind of internal drive, that love for the craft, is probably what keeps you going long term, right? Fame can be unreliable.
Good point. Later on, he talks about learning to say no, this knife with two edges idea. Wanting to be positive, but realizing pleasing everyone can backfire.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough lesson for anyone, but especially maybe a young artist starting out.
How so? What kind of situations?
Well, you feel pressure to say yes to everything, right? Collaborations, shows, deals, fear of missing out.
Or disappointing people.
Exactly. But stretch yourself too thin and you hit burnout, or your own vision gets diluted. Learning to say no strategically is crucial. Hard, but crucial.
And this mantra he has now, put yourself first. Balancing his happiness with others sounds like a constant juggling act.
It is, but it's not selfish, is it? It's foundational. You can't really support others if you're running on empty yourself.
True. Okay, switching gears slightly. His friends' descriptions of him were kind of funny. Moobut, like clueless. And beat trao doi qua, too immersed.
Yeah. It sounds like playful teasing about his intense focus, like he gets so lost in his work he forgets to eat or sleep.
Which can be great for creativity, I guess, but...
But you need balance, and it sounds like he knows that. Trying things like wearing a red shirt just to remind himself to be present, that shows self-awareness.
Definitely. Okay, part 2, career and creative process. The tarot reading here mentioned family, security, stability, connection to memories.
Interesting themes. How do you think those might weave into his songwriting, maybe subtly?
Well, a need for security could lead to themes of home, maybe? Or familiar sounds?
And the memory connection, like maybe nostalgia in the melodies, or lyrics drawn from the past. He did mention his song, The Gem, came from an old love story.
Right, a very direct example. He seems to really value writing from real experiences, real interactions.
Yeah, he wants it to hit home with his inner circle first, almost. Like if it's real to them, it'll be real to a wider audience.
That makes sense. Build outwards from an authentic core.
And getting honest feedback is part of that, especially from his close friends who are also musicians.
He wants the blunt truth, apparently. No polite fluff.
Because that's what helps you grow, right? Vague praise doesn't give you anything actionable. Honest critique, even if it stings a bit, helps you improve.
Builds trust in that circle, too, probably.
Totally. And he seems okay with negative feedback generally. Like his fishing analogy, you don't always catch a big one.
Yeah, not every song will land with everyone. Accepting that seems healthy, mature.
It frees you up to experiment, doesn't it? Less fear of failure on every single track.
He also talked about the reality of chasing a passion. It's not all just, following your heart. There are risks, preparations.
The unglamorous side. Financial instability, maybe. The constant hustle. Dealing with rejection.
Yeah, the practical stuff beyond just having an idea.
It takes real sacrifice. And he said you need to be happy with the path itself, even with all the uncertainty.
Accepting that uncertainty seems vital in creative fields.
Absolutely. It's rarely a straight line. Finding joy in the process, not just hoping for a guaranteed result, is key.
He also brought up external factors, environment, education, family influence, acknowledging it's not all just individual hustle.
That's important, yeah. Recognizing how circumstances and support systems play a role. It's a more nuanced view of success.
And that story about the talented musician who wasn't getting noticed sounds like that really spurred him on.
Yeah, seeing potential go unrecognized can be a powerful motivator. Makes you want to make sure your own voice is heard.
Then there was that hypothetical. What if you'd become a pharmacist and then wanted to do music?
Oof, much harder, right? More invested, more to lose by switching.
It really highlights the value of figuring things out earlier, if you can. Though his point was also that if it's a true calling, you might return to it anyway.
True, but then the question becomes how you return. Understanding your why, your strengths, where you fit in. It's more strategic than just jumping back in.
And Wren's own journey is so much about self-learning, isn't it? Teaching himself, singing, mixing, mastering, because he didn't have formal training at first.
Right, and he sees that DIY approach as a strength now.
How do you think that shapes an artist? Learning everything yourself?
It often leads to a really unique sound, I think. You're not necessarily following established rules. You experiment, find your own way. It builds resourcefulness.
Makes sense. And finding ideas. He does all sorts of things. Cleaning, drawing, listening to music, just being quiet.
It sounds like he's actively cultivating opportunities for inspiration, not just waiting for lightning to strike.
Yeah, there's something we can all probably learn from that. Musician or not. Create space for ideas.
Engage with the world. Allow for quiet time. Inspiration comes from weird places.
Like those shower thoughts he mentioned. Getting an idea, doing something mundane, and needing to grab it quick.
Oh yeah, totally relatable. Always have a way to capture those fleeting thoughts. Voice memo, notes app, whatever works.
He even hums melodies or writes lyrics in public while traveling. That's dedication.
It shows how integrated music is into his life. He's always processing things through that creative filter.
Of course, the flip side is the frustration of losing an idea because you couldn't record it, that pang of annoyance.
Every creative person knows that feeling. It just reinforces why having those capture tools ready is so important.
Okay, let's talk language. He works in French, English, and Vietnamese. And he feels different languages actually change how he thinks for songwriting.
That's fascinating. Each language has its own rhythm, its own sounds, its own cultural weight.
So the language itself could spark a melody. Or shape the lyrics differently.
Absolutely. The vocabulary, the structure, it all influences how you express ideas and emotions.
English was a big early influence, especially rap and online stuff, which makes sense given its global reach.
Yeah, that probably gave him a wide range of styles to draw from initially.
But he's also really diving into Vietnamese now, discovering its depth, even needing a dictionary sometimes.
And finding words like Tien Du Yen, that idea of predestined connection. It's beautiful.
It shows there's always more to explore, even in your native language. And that exploration feeds back into his art.
Definitely. And he seems passionate about encouraging more use of Vietnamese in music, questioning why artists sometimes default to English phrases.
Yeah, pushing back against that a bit, advocating for the richness of Vietnamese itself.
It's about being intentional, creative, showing what the language can do in a contemporary setting.
He does admit sometimes an English phrase might just feel right for a specific nuance.
Sure, but his broader point is about really trying to achieve that spirit within Vietnamese first, making a conscious effort.
Right. Intentionality. Okay, let's shift to relationships and love. The tarot reading here suggested abundance, care, principles.
And it seemed to land with him, especially the part about wanting a partner with principles and patience.
Yeah, he owned that immediately and connected it to himself, feeling he maybe lacks those strict principles sometimes, wants balance.
Seems like it. Seeking complementary strengths. He even mentioned admiring his disciplined friends.
It shows what qualities he values in people generally, not just romantic partners.
Exactly. Friendships often reflect our core values.
He also talked about Duyen fate, predestination in relationships, referencing his song Gap May and meeting the right person with the wrong shoes.
That's a great metaphor, isn't it? Wrong shoes. Captures that timing or circumstance mismatch perfectly, even if the person seems right.
So for him, right is about the fit, the compatibility. Initial attraction is a good sign, but long-term needs shared goals, a similar worldview.
Moving beyond just chemistry, yeah, to fundamental alignment. That's often what makes relationships last.
He seems pretty self-aware, too, acknowledging his own fleeting or ephemeral nature, needing a partner who gets that he might change or grow.
That kind of honesty is huge in a relationship, isn't it? Knowing yourself and communicating it.
And knowing he can be impulsive, bok dung, in love, needing patience from a partner.
Again, self-awareness. Understanding his own tendencies and what he needs to create a healthier dynamic.
And he's actively working on it, he says. Trying to slow down, be less reactive. That's real effort.
It shows maturity, a commitment to growth within relationships.
He was also really candid about past patterns, overthinking, being a bit controlling due to insecurity.
And recognizing it wasn't healthy. Emphasizing focusing on yourself first.
That self-assessment is the first step to breaking those cycles, right?
Absolutely. Recognizing the pattern, taking responsibility, and that focus on self-love as the foundation.
But knowing when to let go. He admits that's tough. No easy formula, just a feeling when it's not working anymore, despite trying.
Yeah, relying on intuition. Many people struggle with that ambiguity. It's emotionally complex.
He even recommended looking at stuff like relationship therapy content on TikTok, being open to learning.
And prioritizing self-love. It's a positive, proactive approach to navigating relationships.
He also mentioned wanting to be more proactive now, having historically been more passive, often the one getting left.
Interesting. That suggests a desire for more agency, wanting to actively shape his romantic life more.
And he really values good communication from the get-go, watching how someone communicates, especially when upset.
So smart. How people handle conflict says a lot, doesn't it? Healthy communication is bedrock.
Looking ahead, what's his focus?
Mostly music, it sounds like. Releasing more songs. His career is the big thing he's anticipating this year.
Makes sense. That passion is clearly front and center right now.
And that final tarot card for his career outlook seemed to echo that, signifying recognition, acceptance, fitting for someone about to release new work.
A desire for the work to connect, which is natural.
Yeah, wanting that positive reception.
So, wrapping up, Wren himself described the chat using terms like tunneling, spiritual, and something meaning help or assist.
Reflecting on the self-discovery and maybe the guidance he felt. And he even wanted to explore that Vietnamese word for help, for songwriting.
See? Even the conversation sparked creative ideas for him. Everything feeds back into the art.
It really highlights that connection between his inner world and his music.
And if he had to pick one guiding card from the reading,
the love card. Seeking that partner with principles and patience shows where his personal focus lies.
Yeah, clear priorities. And his final message was about promoting Vietnamese language and culture, Cu Ha Time Viet.
Ties right back into his thoughts on using the language fully in his music, a real commitment there.
Well, a huge thank you to Wren Evans for being so open in that original interview. And to you, the learner, we hope this deep dive gave you some interesting things to think about.
Maybe spark some reflections on your own journey, your passions, how you approach things.
Definitely check out Gen Z Trian for more conversations like the one we discussed.
And maybe think about this. Wren took a big risk pursuing a path less traveled. What passion might you've put on the back burner? And maybe, just maybe, what's one tiny step you could take even today just to explore it a little?
Good food for thought. Until next time, keep diving deep.